So you talked about living in Miami for a little while,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
know.
it was north of Miami. I've lived in the Palm Beaches.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's when you met the great Burt
The
Reynolds,
man, the
the
man,
man.
Burt Reynolds. All right, let's talk about Burt for a minute.
Let's talk about Burt for a
All
minute.
right.
Hold on, before
All right.
you
Yeah.
before you start,
Yeah.
I want to say one of the greatest compliments I ever got
Yeah.
is when you were laughing. And I go, "Did you steal that from Burt Reynolds? Did you steal your laugh?"
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
stopped and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, thank you."
Yeah.
And then you said, "Burt would have loved you."
He would have. He would have. He would have loved you. Were we like besties? No.
Right.
Did I know Burt? Absolutely. So I lived in North Palm Beach and actually lived on the island of Palm Beach for a while. And Burt lived in Jupiter, Florida, which is just north of the North Palm Beach area, and it's gorgeous. He lived on Jupiter Island, and back in the mid '80s, he was doing a show for ABC called BL Stryker, where he was a private detective in Florida. He drove a 63 Cadillac convertible that was just, rusty and nasty looking, lived on a houseboat. Uh, Really, it was a really cool show. And it was kind of like ABC was kind of like rebooting that 90-minute series like they did with Columbo way back in the day and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they rebooted Columbo at that time as well. And Peter Falk was shooting that, I think, out in the California area. But they did BL Stryker and it was in Florida. So I talked to you about how I had a hobby shop,
Yeah.
cars, and that hobby shop was in a large building. It was a large complex where it had multiple slots, so to speak. And so I leased one slot, and that's where I had my cars, and that's where I was. And but I was also involved in television. So the front part of that building was an edit bay, and the back half of that building was my hobby shop cars. Well, I was on the very end. One day somebody came in and leased the entire building except for me. I was the end slot, and the rest of the entire huge building got leased by somebody. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is. Well, it turned out to be ABC, and that's where they put their sound stage and all the
Oh, okay.
interiors for the Burt Reynolds BL Stryker show. So all the interiors for the houseboat that he lived on, the office that he worked out of, all that kind of stuff was there. Next thing you know, there's a whole production team there. It's huge, and Burt Reynolds is there every day. Well, Burt truly was, God bless him, a car guy, loved cars. And one day, I had the door rolled up in the back, and I'm wrenching on a car, and Burt Reynolds walks in because he's in between stuff. And he just walks in and just starts, shooting the breeze with me. And he's just such a kind, generous, cool guy. And, they always had craft services there, every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So now,
Or the business we call it crafty.
crafty, right, right. So now, he's like, hey, man, let's have lunch. So it got to be a point where I was having lunch with him on a regular basis. Met so many people through him. Dom DeLuise, who was, arguably one of his best friends, used to come there, and we would have lunch together and hang out. And Burt was always into cars, so my little joint was a great escape for him to come and step away from the studio and hang out. And it got to the point where he had me doing some driving for him. I did some driving on the show because
Oh wow.
I'm actually, believe it or not, a trained driver. I've been to school, so I've done stunt driving, I've done race driving, all this type of stuff. So I've actually did some of the driving on the BL Stryker series. There was a couple of episodes where there was like a biker gang doing something, and Burt had to go talk to some guys, and they used my shop as a place to, and I'm in the background just wrenching on stuff, just a background dude.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
he was beyond cool. Everything you saw about Burt was really true. I always say um, he can't help that he was pretty. He was just a really cool
He was
cat.
a
He
man's
was a
man.
man's man. He was so cool. Then when I left Florida, And of course, the series wrapped up, and everybody went their separate ways. I left Florida and I came to Vegas, and it was I think it was in 1990 or something. Burt and I reconnected when they opened up the Harley Davidson Cafe on the Strip back then, and he came and did the grand opening, and we reconnected there, and we hung out, and it was so good to see him there. And then, man, just before he passed away, he contacted me because he was auctioning off a Trans Am that he had from Hooper. He had the red Trans Am from Hooper. He had a Black Bandit Trans Am, and he had the crew cab dually that was in
Stroke. It wasn't Stroker, was it?
No,
it was wasn't Cannonball.
Cannonball.
It was Cannonball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he wanted to sell them at Barret here in Vegas when they were in Vegas. And so they needed a little going through, no big deal. So he shipped them to me, and I was going through them when the good Lord called him home. And it was tough, but I followed through on his wishes. I got the cars ready to go and brought them to Barret and myself, and ran them through the auction for him. And all the proceeds went to the Burt Reynolds Foundation, which is a really wonderful charity. But Burt, God bless him. He was one of the most genuine, real guys. And the really fun thing about him that I loved is the fact that, I mean, that's a celebrity, that's a
star.
Yeah, that's a star. Right. Those words get thrown around a lot, but he's a huge star. But he was just so much fun and crazy and just loved to goof around all the time. He was always goofing, and I love that about him.
And I've told you this before. Like, there's many times that I've teared up watching Counting Cars, because like people are getting their dream car. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these people have the money to get their dream car. So, but it's still, they're getting their dream car.
Amen. Yeah.
But that scene, when you brought those, nobody knew.
No.
Nobody knew. That was all 100% pure. This is happening right now.
Genuine and real. That's one thing about Counting Cars I was really blessed with, is the network, the production company, my director, everybody understood that I really wanted to keep that show very, very real. There's a lot of reality shows that are not real in any way, shape, or form, and I really needed to keep Counting Cars 100% real, and that's something that I'm firm on. And that was all genuine. That really happened that way. It really went down just like that. And,
and
it's tough.
I have to do this. I usually do this at the top of the show, but I had an open beer. In the words of my good friend Stone Cold Steve Austin, not only going to crack one for the working man, we're going to crack one for Burt.
Amen. Amen. Cheers.
Cheers.
Amen.
So there